Hi everyone, on this sunny afternoon, at least over here in Germany, in Europe, on Tuesday, the 20th of July, 2021, for the July edition of the HbbTV Webinar series. We've picked a great topic, and the interest you've shown to watch this live, 120 people have registered, despite the school holidays having started in many countries, shows that this is a topic lots of people in the community are interested in. It's about HbbTV solutions for small and local broadcasters. We have a great lineup of speakers telling you a lot about the experiences, great insights with these technologies and systems and solutions. And there will be, as usual, a 15-minute Q&A at the end for your questions. So please start submitting your questions anytime during the presentations. We will collect them at the end and then read out the ones that are most interesting and most relevant for our audience. The great lineup of speakers I've already mentioned is consisting of Rainer Biehn, Technical Manager, Deputy Managing Director at BMT in Germany, a technology service provider very much involved with HbbTV solutions. Hi, Rainer. Good to have you.
Hi. Hi.
His colleague, Veit Olischläger, who actually worked many, many years at BMT, is now the Head of Technology, Media Business and Public Relations at BLM. That's the Bavarian media regulator in Germany. Hi, Veit. Great to have you. And over to Italy now from Germany. We have three great representatives. Number one is Pasquale Marinaro from Kineton, a technical service provider, where he's the technical manager, and they are involved a lot with HbbTV solutions, and certainly a name to remember. Hi, Pasquale.
Hi.
And one of his clients is Fabrizio Bocci, who's the CTO of RTV38, a regional broadcaster from Italy, who's going to tell you a lot about his experiences with HbbTV. Hi, Fabrizio.
Hello, everyone.
Great to have you, and great to have you, Massimo Pavan, who's marketing director, or marketing manager and head of special projects at Sportitalia, a national Italian sports broadcaster. Great to have you, Massimo.
Hi to everyone. Hello.
Now let's get started. First, of course, the usual disclaimer: the presentations represent the views of the presenters and the companies he or she represents, not necessarily the views of the HbbTV Association. I'll tell you a bit more about the other organizational things you need to know, but now we're all eager to get started. Of course, we're going to start with Rainer and his presentation of the BMT rating monitor using HbbTV. Rainer, you're ready to share your screen now.
Thank you, Jörn. I just need the invitation to share my screen. I haven't received it.
Should get that in a second.
Oh, no, I get it. Just a second.
Very good. It's always a little delay, but doesn't matter.
Okay, you should see the slides now. Okay. So during the next minutes, I will give an overview of our HbbTV rating monitor, which is a tool for the analysis and of TV programming and media planning. But before we have a look at the live demo of the system, here's a quick look at the capabilities and the technical concept. So the rating monitor provides measurement data of TV usage based on HbbTV technology, and thus enables TV stations or regulation authorities to get an improved insight into the attractivity of particular parts like shows or news items. And it can be used for the optimization of the planning of a program or its commercial exploitation. And as we speak of local and small broadcasters today, it is also clear that not all of them have access to highly current ratings. For example, the survey for Bavarian local stations is mainly based on telephone interviews, and they are not part of the national panel. And this was the motivation for the development of the rating monitor. What is it good for? So you can immediately see the number of devices that are tuned in. You can get the dwell time, meaning the period of viewing for a particular user, and the distribution channel that is used. It's important to note that we can only count the number of devices connected and not actual viewers. I think for the future, there's a correction factor that needs to be determined, but that's not our field of expertise. So all of this is achieved in compliance with data protection regulations and without personal data of viewers, which is gathered. As this is the first presentation in the series today, let me briefly introduce the technical concept, which is probably similar for the following systems as well. You can see a typical setup with HbbTV-based reception here, which can be realized via satellite, cable, or even terrestrial. The signal needs to include the application information table, AIT, carrying the signaling information about the HbbTV application. And the TV receiver has to be equipped with HbbTV technology and has to be connected to the internet. If these two conditions apply, the application is downloaded from the HbbTV server, indicated by a red button on the TV, which disappears after a few seconds. But no matter if the viewer presses the red button or not, the HbbTV application is already running and transmits a set of data to the rating monitor server at regular intervals. This is an unambiguous random number, so-called UUID, which is used to recognize a particular device and we can calculate the dwell time based on this. Furthermore, date and time of access, the HbbTV version and the TV model are stored in a database. And this principle is repeated in regular intervals, so we can see how long the program is used by a viewer. This is the general principle, making use of the auto-start mechanism of HbbTV. That's the reason why we can do that without any user interaction needed. Before we have a look at the live system, here's a quick impression of the dashboard. As already noted, it provides immediate insight into the usage statistic just by using a web browser. So you need nothing else, no installation or things like that, just a web browser. The whole setup is provided by us as a turnkey solution, including the HbbTV application, the database, and the web application. All you need are user credentials provided by us to log in. You can see several text widgets that display, for instance, the total number of devices yesterday or within the last quarter or the average dwell time. These are the three widgets on the top left. There's also a bar graph with the number of devices in a time grid, a pie chart showing the division of distribution channels, and a dot diagram for the presentation of the dwell time. So here every dot represents a particular session. But now let's go into the live demo. So I switch to my browser here. So now I've used the Chrome browser here. You can see a live view into the system. You can see on the top left the number of devices counted today. And you can see that these 15 minutes bar chart is just updating at regular intervals. So it's 3 o'clock. So this is the latest. And this will be filled during the rest of the day with more data. You can also add another widget beside that to just compare the figures maybe from last month to see how you perform. And you have other widgets as well. You can see the distribution channels here. This is a reception via satellite. DVB-C in SD quality, DVB-C in HD quality, in streaming, and so on. So you can just get an insight on how the different distribution methods are used for this particular program. Here you can see that the majority of usage is satellite. This is just due to the fact that not every cable receiver is equipped with HbbTV, so this is not really absolutely representative. You can also see the number of devices maybe during the last 30 days. You can just adjust that here, and you can use an absolute period of time, starting maybe last week for 1 week, and you can also choose which block size you want. This is 1 day always, and here you always have 6 hours time, so you can just see how the usage is performing throughout the day. You can clearly see that, of course, in the evening hours, starting at 6 p.m. until midnight, the most viewers are active, which is fairly straightforward. So on the lower right, you see the dwell time. So this is just every dot represents a particular device. So you can see here, here's one which has been switched on tuned in to the channel at 6 minutes past midnight for 41 minutes. Of course, the majority of usage is shorter. It's around about 10 minutes or so, but you can investigate everything specifically here. You always have a more detailed full screen view. So here in this case, you can see that this chart represents a quite large number of stations, all the Bavarian local stations, which you can see here stacked up together to just build the overall amount. You can also filter here. If you can look at the lowest here, the purple one, which disappears if you just deactivate it here on the top. You can also change the time here, the time period. If you were just interested in the first 12 hours of the day, you can get a more detailed insight into this. So I have to get rid of this panel here. Okay, back to this. What's also interesting is you have the ability to export the data. You can just select the period of time you want to export the data for. You can choose the programs which should be included into the report. You can choose if they are summed up or if they are just differently. If you have more than one program you want to report for, you can have several settings which you can adjust, and then you get a small report on what you have configured. And if you're fine with that, you just go for export, and you get a CSV file you can see in the lower left corner, which you can just import into a tool of your choice, like Excel, for instance. So let's just go back. You can also change the views here. You can add new overviews if you want. I can. This is like a small wizard which guides you through the setup process. But we can't do that with the limited time we have today. So that's it from my side. For the moment, I now hand over to Veit Olischläger, who is a heavy user of the tool, and he can show you some interesting examples of insights for users. So I switch back to the presentation now. And Veit, you can
okay. Just in case the handover takes a minute or two, I'd like to very briefly for everyone to understand the importance of these rating systems in case you're not familiar with them. The problem is in many countries that the national ratings systems are running well for the big broadcasters, but the small broadcasters, local broadcasters very often say we are not adequately covered by these nationwide ratings and measuring systems. We need something different. And this is where HbbTV can jump in, because it can more precisely monitor the amount of viewers a smaller broadcaster has. And that is not just interesting to align the programming to see what works well, what doesn't work so well for the program director. Also, it's interesting to see for the advertising industry, for the advertisers, to see how many people have actually watched an advert, have actually watched a sponsored program and things like that. And I think now it's time for Veit to show you a bit more detail, the practical sides of the BMT rating monitor. Thank you. Over to you.
Absolutely true, Jörn, and thanks for inviting us. Hi, everybody. Warm welcome from Munich. Short disclaimer from my side, BMT is a subsidiary of BLM, and as you mentioned it before, I was employee there 1.5 years ago before I started at BLM. But now let's start with some examples, user experience. Actually, I cannot see the presentation, but Rainer wanted to show this.
I'm not sure if you're still on air, because I think the presentation has been stopped by
Yeah,
the
just
moderator.
Thomas in the background. Can you please make Rainer the presenter again, so he can share his screen, because the presentation will run from Rainer's screen and Veit will comment.
So perfect assistance.
So you have it? Okay.
Here we go. Yeah.
Thank you. So during the pandemic situation, almost all local stations in Bavaria broadcasted press conferences, mostly with the Prime Minister, Dr. Söder. Here you can see an example. It's an early afternoon in February 2021, an unusual peak early afternoon. And if you compare it to 1 week before, you see the same constellation, but you can't see nothing special. So this is one point where we are using the rating monitor to see how special interest services are working. Even the absolute figures are lower. You can't see it because the figures are too small, but this is in fact so. At this point, I'd like to point out that the BMT tool is perfect for a relative research, as we call it. It means, for example, you can monitor audience flow during the day, during 1 week or 1 month. You can relative compare it. Actually, we're working hardly on a solution for the absolute research. Means how many people are watching. But I don't want to stress this topic right now. It would be an extra workshop, long more than 1 hour. But let's go to the next slide, please. Another example, on June 22nd, 12 regional stations broadcasted a soccer cup. They normally do not so many live sports, but as you can see here on this slide, in mid-afternoon, Sunday afternoon, we have this peak here. And Rainer, turn on the next picture, please. The same situation 1 week before. Again, you can see nothing special. Next slide, please. Last example, this is one local station, and as we recognized, there's a very good encouragement during the pandemic shutdown for church services. This example is early Sunday morning, round about 9 o'clock. In fact, it was a Thursday, but it's holiday, so it's like Sunday for all the people. And come back to the comparison, Rainer, please. There is a significant difference between 1 week later here in this example. As a short wrap up, excellent tool for monitoring audience flow shortly after broadcasting. This is important too. So program makers can optimize their program and see how content works. So far from my side, thanks for your interest.
Thank you very much. And just a brief note from my side before we continue, please do submit your questions that you might have for the speakers. We're going to collect them and respond to them in the last couple of minutes of this webinar. You can type them in straight away here in the text box. Now over to you, Pasquale from Kineton, who's going to give us an overview over their rating measurement system. And it'll be interesting to see what they've developed for local and small broadcasters.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Here we present our audience measurement platform. As mentioned before, the benefit of HbbTV in this case are that the data are collected automatically without any specific equipment, but using a simple smart TV. All data are anonymized to protect the privacy, Our data show are not calculated on a statistical sample, but are calculated on individual devices, because we collect all data from each television that is tuned and connected to the internet. We collect some data and calculate different KPI. For example, collect data about different TV channels, how many users are viewing a specific channel, how many users are inside the application. For example, if we have a video on demand application, we can collect data about all video views, the most video viewed. Or for example, if there is an interactive application, we can understand if a specific section of this application is never used, maybe because there is, for example, a technical problem, because there is a navigation or the user experience is wrong for a specific reason. Also, we collect the data about the geographical position using a specific service, and collect the data about the internet service provider and the TV model and the manufacturer. And this data, we use this data to create a specific cluster in order to provide the custom content, for example, for videos or custom advertising based on the cluster that we created before. We can provide, for example, advertising using the classic L banner, or using a pre-roll videos. Also, we have in Kineton we have a specific product called the CARP that is a campaign manager, and we use this data with this campaign manager in order to provide a specific advertising. Now we can, I will show you an overview of our platform. In this case, we have the total accesses to different channels. In blue and red, we have 2 different terrestrial channels. In this case, we have the timeline about the total accesses on this channel, because the HbbTV application is run in automatic way. So it is silent, and the user has only to accept the GDPR in order to track everything about the user interface or about the terrestrial channel usage. Here we have the how many users, the number of users that are present on a specific channel. Here we have the distribution about the unique users for each day and for each channel, because as mentioned before, we use a UID standard in order to have different unique identifier for each device. Also, we have a sort of bandwidth of slot that regards how many minutes the user stay on specific channels. In this case, we have, for example, how many users stay here between 5 and 10 minutes. Also here, we have the specific events application. For example, as mentioned before, we can collect the data about how many users clicked on a specific button or play a specific videos. Here we have the unique devices grouped by a specific time slot. For example, in Italy, we have an organization called Auditel that collects data using a statistical approach and provide the result using a specific time slot. In this case, we have replicated a specific time slot, but with the real data, in order to allow the broadcaster to compare our data with the Auditel data. In this section, we have the distribution about some data. For example, in this case, we have the internet service provider, and for our region, for example, how many TIM, Vodafone, or Fastweb internet service provider are used. In this section, we have the distribution about the TV model, TV maker, Samsung, LG, Philips, and so on. In this case, we have the distribution about this manufacturer for a specific region or for a specific city. Here, instead, we have the distribution during the time. For example, in a specific day, how many Samsung, how many LG, how many Philips are accessed to our channel. And here we have the distribution of internet service provider during the same days. And at the end, the total device. So, in conclusion, using this data, this audience measurement platform, we can learn more about our users, the user of the terrestrial satellite channels. And using this data, we can create a new advertising space, because integrating the schedule of a specific channel, we can have a lot of metadata in order to customize the advertising, for example, for a specific show, for a specific film, and so on. And in this case, we can use the target advertising to provide to our customer, for example, a specific pre-roll video if we have an interactive application for video on demand. Okay, and that's all from my side. In this panel, we have our customer from HbbTV-38, Fabrizio from Sportitalia, that are using our platform and can explain the benefit of HbbTV approach. Thanks.
Thank you, Pasquale, for this interesting insight. You've already mentioned it. We've now got 2 use case examples. I'd like to welcome Fabrizio from RTV38, the regional broadcaster from Italy, who's made lots of experiences and can tell us and share some of them with us. But I think we've got a video to show first. So Thomas, if you could turn me into the presenter, then I've got the right button to click on. Okay. In a second, then we can take a look at the video. But Fabrizio, first, is there any introduction you have to the video and to the audience?
Yes, first of all, thank you for inviting me and our company to speak in this huge webinar about new technology. We have developed, along with Kineton, our technology provider, an application, an HbbTV application, which covers many different aspects. So first of all, I would like you to watch this video. For those of Italian language and coming from Italy, they will recognize our testimonial and our promotional video, and you will see some of the functionality we currently have on air. And later on, we will share some thoughts that brought us to approach the HbbTV world. So please, the video.
Okay.
Susi, sono rientrato, eh? Mannaggia, è iniziato il telegiornale. Mi devo sbrigare.
Con i dati che proprio il governatore Gianni...
Ah, già dimenticavo, tanto anche se sono in ritardo non mi importa, perché c'è Play 38, me lo posso rivedere con calma quando mi pare. Basta premere la freccia su del telecomando. E poi mica finisce qui, eh? Sempre se premi la freccia su, puoi rivedere i programmi della settimana in ogni momento. Come si dice, on demand. L'informazione, lo sport, i film, la cucina, la ginnastica, le altre trasmissioni. Così mi posso anche rivedere. Alla fine, ragazzi, sono troppo carino quando mi rivedo. È incredibile, è bellissimo. Con Play 38 puoi mettere anche in pausa, non ti perdi niente e hai tutto a portata di telecomando.
Yes, nice example. I think that this person in the video has been a famous Italian football player. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, is Francesco Graziani, also known as Ciccio, former 1982 World Soccer Champion, and it's one of our opinionists for the sport talk show we broadcast weekly. But anyway, I will try not to bore you with many technical stuff or some of how good we are. I just want to share you the motivation why we approach the HbbTV, which I think might interest some of our viewers today. So we started a couple of years ago to analyze this standard and trying to imagine what could be the impact into the new television environment that actually it's starting right now. For those not Italian, there is an important changeover in this month where Sky lost the soccer rights for live soccer game, and DAZN acquired. So the next season of the football soccer will be available by an internet broadcaster. So what we expect a lot of TV set to be connected in the next couple of months before the season starts, and that will help HbbTV to be way more present on the viewer side. So as most of the other panelists have already said, the first thing we approached was the viewers accounting. We all in Italy, we are based on an Auditel system, an Nielsen company that makes a statistical viewer calculation, and as you say, that's a statistical approach. So for small or local broadcaster or aerial broadcaster, not the main ones, those data are impacted by huge error factors. With HbbTV tracking application, we have full control on what our viewers are doing inside our channel, what they are watching, and also for the on-demand part, which program they prefer to review or to view in a different time frame than live broadcast. For example, like I don't know if our viewers will prefer to review our news production or our sports production or our cooking production. We decide to make available a compilation, a subset of the production we currently broadcast. And we prefer to make them available in a controlled environment like HbbTV than to spread them around into social networks or YouTube or any other public CDN where we have no control for the use they make of it. And also there is a very small chance of monetization, because the next step will be using the advertisement with all the viewers data that in our case Kineton platform, but for any other technology provider will make available to address specific user with different content. So that's our next frontier, and we will working closely with Kineton and other technology provider to achieve this goal that we have set a couple of years ago. I think the time for me is expired, so thank you for listening. I hope I've lit any light bulbs in your mind.
Thank you very much for this live and first-hand presentation of your experiences and the reasons why you're using HbbTV and what can be achieved through HbbTV, the open technology, and of course the benefits for you as a local broadcaster. I'd like to now hand over to our last speaker, who's Massimo from Sportitalia. I already mentioned him, a big Italian nationwide broadcaster, and they are using HbbTV for various purposes. I think Massimo has also a video for us, but over to you first to introduce yourself.
Yes, if you want, you can launch the video.
Okay, I'll need to be turned into presenter now again, Thomas, then I can share the video. That can only be done from my desk. Okay, here we go. And I'll quickly go into the video section and we show the video from Sportitalia.
Dopo 111 giorni torna finalmente il campionato primavera.
Su Sportitalia, canale 60 del digitale terrestre.
Sì, dai 24 ben ritrovati in nuova edizione del nostro telegiornale.
Mares punta all'uomo, Mares il tocco dentro per Ferran Torres. Di rigore, Zapata è solo, Zapata, Zapata! Zapata! Joel, poi Diamanti, cerca lo scavetto! Diamanti! Mamma mia!
Neymar, area di rigore, mette nel mezzo e la sblocca Moise Kean.
Looking for the win. He's got to beat Christopherson down to the merge if he wants to take it. Trying to make it stick. Oh, almost into action. Let's just see how high we can go. Turn it up. No stopping till we lose all control. Turn it up until we feel it down in our soul. Turn it up. Let's just see how high we can go. Turn it up. No stopping till we lose all control. Turn it up until we feel it down in our soul.
Siamo pronti. Partiamo.
Great. Lot of action going on there. Thomas, can you turn Massimo into a presenter again, and then he can share his screen because he's got a presentation for us.
Yes.
So
it was
yes, we can hear you.
a short overview of our contents, because it's very important to understand what are our contents and our goal to go with a new technology, because we have a lot of contents, and for us it's very important to understand what we do, because we have a television that is from 2004, and we have a lot of contents of a lot of sports, but the most important is football, because in Italy, but also in a big part of the world, the soccer, football is the most part of the audience. And so we study different kind of way to communicate to our audience the major part of matches of football as we can. So we develop in this year an important project that we call C-Smart. C-Smart is the possibility to go with at the same time with different contents and different channels. So we have a major channel that is Sportitalia Plus, and we develop at the same time other free channel that we insert in our HbbTV project. And the channel are Sportitalia HD in high quality, C-Live 24, that it's a channel that gives 24 hours a day TG news and infotainment, C Solo Calcio, that it's a channel focused only on football matches, and it's more than 1,000 football matches during 1 year, and C Motori, and that is a channel focused for motorsport. You see in the video before a lot of motorsport competition, and with this kind of channel, we could insert a lot of contents. For example, NASCAR, for example, Rallycross, for example, Speedway. So it's a good opportunity for us. And at the same time, we don't have in HbbTV only our channel. We use this kind of possibility to insert other channel that are channel of our partners. For example, the Udinese channel, that is the channel of Udinese Football Club, Radio Bianconera, that is one of the most important radio contents from Juventus, Radio Nerazzurra, the same for Inter, and Tempo Radio, that is the official radio of Tutto Mercato Web, that is one of the most important website about the transfer market in Italy. And this gives us the possibility to insert more and more channel. Another one channel is Bike TV, and is focused on bicycle. So what is important, because at the same time we insert HbbTV channel, but we give to our audience the possibility to see our contents also in the app, because we synchronize all the contents that is possible to see free on air with HbbTV, at the same time with HbbTV new television, but also at the same time with the app Sportitalia. With Kineton we insert in our app. We have great goals, and we obtain in 1 year more than 700,000 downloads, and this is a good result for us, because you can see in our app live streaming the 4 channels, the channel partner, but also some tailor-made and focus contents. And for its new situation, we insert also in Google Chrome, in Google Chromecast, in Amazon Fire Stick and Android TV, to have more and more possibility to see our contents. What is important about this partnership? Because we found in Kineton the perfect partner for our goal and for our audience. To give you some numbers, we have one total audience of, for example, in May, of almost 9 million person. That is 3 times more than the same audience of last year. This is a great important goal for us, because it gives us the possibility to increase our audience, to have more person that are that know now Sportitalia, but at the same time we could develop some particular and definitely content for this audience. At the same time, the average stays on SAE of Sportitalia is more. We found that it moves from 3 minutes to 4 minutes and 5 minutes. So it's important. And one element that is important, as we see that the person that stay in the new type of, we use the new kind of contents that they stay, for example, in HbbTV or in the app, are and use almost the same time that the TV Classic, and the program that are most viewed in the TV channel is the same in the app, and this is give us is a good panel to understand the characteristic and the issue of our audience. With Kineton, we have a possibility to have a report that is very specific and very good, because they give us the possibility to know which is the mobile audience, if there's a difference between the audience from the TV Classic, or something different that comes from the mobile audience. And we understood that the new generation, the Generation Z, for example, actually they follow our channel in the app and in the new technology. And this is a good feedback also for the advertising, because sometimes the advertising agency or the advertising company, they say that your audience is getting older, but this is not true. Our audience is getting older, but only they change the way to approach to our channel. For example, we have also the possibility to see which is the people that see our channel from Sportitalia HD, from Fire Stick, from Google Chromecast, and also which is the timetable from the unique access. As we see before, also in the report of Pasquale, it's important also to understand which is the geographic distribution and which is the television brand that they use. This is important, for example, because in the next month we try to approach to new platform like Samsung Plus, and to know that Samsung, for example, has the middle of all the market is important. At the same time, we can study the geographical distribution between the north, the south, and the center of Italy, and understand which is the best way to communicate to our audience, and understand if it's a better approach to the north teams. Maybe if we need to talk more about Inter Milan or Milan, say, or the Juventus too, or if we see that we have, for example, a good audience that comes from Rome, it's important to talk also about the Rome team, like Roma, Lazio, and the same from Naples. And one other thing that is very important is the addressable TV, because we can give to the with this kind of opportunity and this kind of technology some additional way to approach to our channel, and to give also an immediate retention. And it's very important. In the last 2 months, we sell, for example, with our partner, 2008 campaigns with an average of 9.5, and we have for 37 brands. This is important because we have a lot of brands that choose this kind of communication, this kind of new technology to approach to their audience. And it's an important way because they give a different approach to the market. At the same time, they give us to propose a different, a new approach. For example, the click to view, the learner, the click to microsite, the click to leaflet, the click to QR code. But it's different way to approach, but it's innovative. And from for a television like us television, it's very important to find a new way to approach to this market and to the system. And so for last, we have new kind of technology, a new kind of approach, and also for the videos we can insert some pre-rolls, some mid-rolls, and it's a new way, and it's a way to approach to the market that is very important for our brand. I don't know if you have some questions.
Thank you. Thank you for these insights. Very interesting, also to our audience, who's now actually in the prime role, because we're in the Q&A section, and I'd like to welcome all the other speakers to share their cameras and their microphones, so that we are all back together on this joint screen. And I'm sharing my screen, and we have the first questions, and I think these are more than we can handle, so please, for the moment, don't submit anything else. They are also very interesting, and the first one goes to BMT. How do you recognize a returning device? Do you store an ID on the TV? How do you handle consent for viewers? And is that done through opt-in or opt-out? I think these are very basic questions, and I'm sure maybe Rainer, you can respond.
Yes, I can. How do you recognize a returning device? We can do that with the UUID. I explained that method. If it's meant to be recognized during a new session on a new day, it has to be stored in a cookie. This can be this is done. The consent is handled via the privacy policy declaration, which we have included in the application, and it's an opt-out in this case. So you can stop the tracking as a user at any time you want.
Okay, another question for you, straight on. What is the actual bus model of the data? How do you enable broadcasters to monetize?
Bus model means business model, or okay, I see. We are more or less the technology provider, so we just provide the data to the broadcasters, and they have to handle the data and the monetization on their own. That's not our task.
Yeah, there's another associated question here, interesting. A viewer says, a question to Rainer and Veit. What is the business model behind it? We've just said that, but more in detail, do the broadcasters pay a tech fee for using it? So actually, what's your business model, Rainer?
They have to pay a fee for that because we have the hosting costs and the license. This is a monthly fee, which is relatively low, but they have to pay to use that.
Obviously, it needs to be affordable to small and local broadcasters, but it's not for free. But of course, they do get a benefit, and if they, use that the knowledge that they gain from using the rating monitor properly, then of course they can monetize that. For example, by showing their advertisers that, look, your sponsored program, your commercial break has now been watched by this many thousands of viewers, and it pays off for you. And then this could, of course, trigger further bookings of advertising and sponsorship and so on. So this is in the hands of the broadcaster then to use that also for, I said that earlier, for optimizing the programming lineup and in what order to show a certain program, when to show a certain program. And I think we've seen that very nicely in these spikes that the Prime Minister's speech on the new lockdown situation, the church service in the morning when people weren't able to go to church in person, still on important religious holidays. These are where local broadcasters have peaks. And this is something I think that the ratings monitors on HbbTV basis can show much more nicely and precisely than the national ratings systems.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Another question also for BMT and BLM. Have you considered how to join or combine your HbbTV ratings with ratings from other sources, for example, live or VOD web streams for the same content? Also interesting, I think. Who would like to respond, Rainer or Veit?
So we have included some web streams already. I don't know if the question points to the fact that we can use that as a mean to compare this with the ratings and access to the web server. I'm not sure about that, but of course it would be highly interesting to combine our figures with other content sources where different methods of measurement are used, but we haven't done that up to now.
Okay, a question to Pasquale. What does that mean? Do they provide both data tech and media advertising clients for the broadcaster, or do they only track? This means they.
Yes, we provide both. We provide the track, the audience measurement platform. Also, we provide the HbbTV application that is the client, and we provide the media advertising services because we can integrate the HbbTV application with Google Ad Server, for example, with a specific we can integrate also with our product called the Carpe, that is another campaign manager. Also, if the broadcaster doesn't have a media company that manage the advertising, we have some partnership with the different media company that can sell the advertising for our customer, for the broadcaster, regional or national broadcaster.
Okay, thanks. A more general question now. Does the user need an HbbTV TV connected to the internet to use the SI platform or not?
Yes, because the platform is, for example, is an HbbTV application. So in order to watch video on demand, the live streaming is mandatory to have an internet connection.
Okay, actually, to follow on that, I mean, you can do calculations on figures that are known, for example, or actually, do you do that? Because you know that a certain amount of TV sets are HbbTV capable, but they are connected to the internet, others are not connected to the internet. And then you can actually use the raw data you have to calculate that against the analytics data you have, and then get the more general figure. Do you do statistics like that, Pasquale?
Yes, in this case, we have a good approach for this kind of application. Also, this is a good benefit for C platform, for example, because there are a lot of users that watch new live IP channels and video on demand contents. So it's necessary to have an internet connection, because this permits to have IP content, and for example, as mentioned before, on the bandwidth of a digital terrestrial channel is expensive, but for example, Sportitalia uses IP channel to have an HDV, a high definition content without consume digital terrestrial bandwidth. So the HbbTV for this approach, for this kind of application, is mandatory to use internet connection.
Yeah, and so I believe to sum up the last question, there is also no such thing as a light version of the HbbTV app that doesn't need an internet connection. I think the internet connection is always required. Otherwise,
yes,
there's no return channel.
At the moment, yes, it's always required.
It's actually the key of getting that data back and getting valuable, reliable data. Otherwise, it's just statistics. We
yes,
about
also
that.
the statistic and data, the content, the video content. For the video content, is mandatory to have an internet connection, because this content and video on demand and live streaming.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time and holding your presentations. Very interesting insights from all of you. I'm sure you'll hear from some of the viewers of this webinar that are more interested in certain details and aspects of your presentations. And also, I'd like to make you aware of that we will have the presentations available for download from the HbbTV Association's website pretty shortly, so you can take another detailed look at them, and also the whole video will be made available as a recording on the HbbTV Association's YouTube channel. You will be sent the links to all of these documents soon, because you've registered for this webinar, and automatically, so check your inbox tomorrow at about the same time. You will have the links then. Also, the main thing I'd like to make you aware of is, of course, our big next event, that is the HbbTV Symposium and Awards. You've probably already seen it. It's taking place on November the 26th and 25th and 26th in Paris, hopefully as an on-site event, but certainly as a hybrid event. Also, there is another, we'll take another look at the continuation of the webinar series I mentioned earlier on. In August, there's of course the usual holiday break. New season will start again in September. And we'll have a webinar on ADB2, the specification update for targeted advertising. You've seen a press release on this probably recently, and we'll also have a webinar on insights regarding the UK market. Further topics you can see here. And a special event for the HbbTV Symposium and Awards is going to take place on September the 9th in the afternoon. We will look at the symposium and the lineup of the agenda. There'll be 2 roundtables with market players, and of course a speech by the chairman. You can already register for this event to make sure you don't miss out on it on the website hbbtv2021.org. Registrations are open. As usual, this webinar is an interactive service for you, for the community. So if you're interested in hearing more about certain topics, please submit your suggestions for other webinars by email to webinar@hbbtv.org. And the HbbTV Association can also be found on Twitter and on LinkedIn. In case you haven't seen that yet, there are constantly updates on issues related to HbbTV, actually almost daily. At the end of this webinar, as usual, there'll be a little survey asking you how you like the webinar to make sure we can improve it for you. Thank you again, and big thanks to the speakers, to the audience. Enjoy the summer, and we'll see you back in September. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.